shoot, I've lost the question. We were looking
for. Well, I asked you, like, how might we avoid this in the future? You had mentioned that there might have been a government incentive for people to take more unnecessary risk, and if the answer then would be to take away those government incentives, whether they're tax incentives or whatever they happen to have been. I guess the tax incentives is really all they have, but.
Yeah, I think FHA secured some mortgages differentially or something. You know what? I probably shouldn't speak on this because I don't know it for sure. I'm repeating things I've heard on the video, whatever. But I think that you have to. I mean, ultimately, the market works when there's good feedback, right? And there's good feedback if there's transparency and there's accountability, right? And the thing is that that those things were broken because of. I mean, nobody wants to provide negative feedback. Nobody wants to get negative feedback. And so there's a tendency among, I would guess well, probably it's a basic human trait. You want to get out of bad things, bad situations. And I think that in cases where the market operates largely underwater or underground, where you can't really see what's happening, there's a great tendency for people to sort of try to skitter out of risky things they've done and push off on somebody else. There's got to be, and that's part of the competition, right? Is you're trying to use the knowledge you have to your advantage and not let other people have that same knowledge. And I think we need to have a better sense of business ethics to realize which knowledge is legitimately that you can legitimately withhold from the person you're selling property to, right? I mean, that's
good to me.
That's
Sounds good to me. I did want to hear a little bit more about your ideas concerning gold. I know that you had mentioned before we started recording that you.
Yeah.
So did you have any more on that topic?
Well, the thing I've heard about gold is that gold bullion is always treated as a collectible item, which means you don't get favorable capital gains tax on it ever. So you're always paying 28% on the profit on the gold. Now, if you're using it as a hedge against inflation, well, wait a minute. I guess that's still going to show up as profit, right? I mean, if you bought the gold at 1,000 and now it's worth 2,000, but the dollar's worth half as much, right? You're still going to pay tax on that $1,000, right? Right. And at 28%, that's what $280.
Well, so if that's the case, if it is seen as what did you call it? A collectible. I wonder if that applies only to the coins and does it apply to the bullion bars as well? Or is that seen as a commodity Okay.
I looked. It's actually gold bullion is treated as collectibles. It's amazing. I've done so much Googling for gold sales, and it's all hype. That's one of the reasons I'm kind of skittish on this whole gold thing is that there seems to be so much hype about inflation's going to go high, buy gold now, and gold has gone up. So there's some legitimate history there, but it seems like. I mean, gold can only go up so high, and at some point, gold can bubble, and it can actually become worth less. I mean, if the dollar actually recovers, it will fall again, and then it might be down to $300 a troy ounce of gold, and then you've just lost a ton of money.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. No. Right, it is, and it is a commodity just like anything else. And I think like during the 70s or I guess 1970, when it was still 35 an ounce, and you compared $35 an ounce compared to other currencies, even with the exchange rate, there's a huge discrepancy, and I think that reflected an undervaluing of gold, and that can certainly happen again. That is a very real risk. Yes.
Well, we're talking in the 70s, and this is something I hadn't really studied before, but I guess back in 56 or something, there was some Western accord to sort of fix all the major currencies to the dollar, right? Because the dollar was at that point a gold standard. A dollar at that point was fixed to gold until 71 or something when Nixon floated it. But the dollar was equivalent to gold. It was we had $1 for every whatever amount of gold we had in Fort Knox. That was the way the currency worked. And when we shifted off of that, right? First of all, we panicked the world because the world was like, we're all relying on the dollar as the reserve note, and it was supposed to be stable and pitched to gold. And all of a sudden, the U.S. is saying, well, we're going to change those terms. Give you a little bit of notice, but we're going to change those terms. Something just crashed on my computer. Sure.
All right. So Bretton Woods.
Yeah. So Bretton Woods was I guess a summit or a treaty. I'm not exactly sure what the terminology is, but anyway, apparently the Western countries, including Japan, agreed to sort of fix their currencies to the dollar for a while. The dollar was considered equivalent to gold at the time because the U.S. was a gold-based currency, and there's interest now in that too. I'm not sure exactly how that would work, but so for a while the yen was fixed at 360 yen per one U.S. dollar, and that would have been at the time when gold was $35 an ounce. So I'm curious as to this. I mean, it seems like it's really weird that you could that basically the yen and the dollar were at some fixed relative value, and you could pay for different prices of gold for it. That just strikes me as a bit.
Right.
It
is a bit odd. It is a bit odd. And I checked and see, that's the weird thing then. That wouldn't make sense because what I did is, and how I found that is I found the exchange rate of dollars to yen during that time, and it was not the 300 or the 300 some such that you mentioned now. So it was either faulty information or I was misreading the graph. And that was that. I think the year I looked for that was 1970. Do you know what year the Bretton Woods happened?
The Accords went from I think 56 through 71 when the U.S. floated the currency.
Oh, really?
So,
that's interesting.
Yeah. So,
well, I'll double check that, and
it may be that Japan exited that earlier. I don't know, but I mean it could be, right?
I don't know.
But anyway, the period of when the U.S. detached its currency from the gold, that was huge economic instability. And I don't know for a fact, but I would bet that that's what contributed to the whole inflationary period afterwards, because all of a sudden, the dollar used to be fixed to gold, and maybe the economy had grown way beyond what was actually present in the currency, and we had to adjust somehow, right? I don't know if that's the case or not. I'm no financial guru to know any of that kind of stuff, but I know that that was a pretty rough time. Although I was a kid then, so I don't remember exactly.
Sure.
So.
Well, that's what I understand. I mean, the difficulty with that fiat monetary system where you have a dollar or a currency not backed by any finite commodity is that you can adjust its levels at will. And on paper, with the whole Federal Reserve process in buying government securities, selling government securities in an effort to try to manage the distribution of loans and the interest rates of loans and so on, sounds all good, except that the purchasing of government securities, when they do that to to lower the interest rates? I forget which one it is, because it's at any rate when they
it's counterintuitive. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They buy them to lower the interest rates.
I think that's right. Right. And they do that by buying the securities with money that was not in the system before. They print off or create that money and use that money to buy the securities, and that's what affects the interest rates. So the short term is a flooded money supply, so that the interest rates drop and people are willing to put out more loans or take those risks. But you do so at the devaluing overall of the dollar. And I think the last I had heard that when the Fed started, they had a dollar bill, and now they have the equivalent of 7 cents.